topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Are you ready to take a journey? Let's connect with the healers of the world. It's that time. It's time for the Language of Healing on W4WN Radio and Talk 4 TV. Now here's your host, Dr. Nicole Fortin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode on the Language of Healing. The dog days of summer are here, and we're going to talk all about our dogs and our pets in our Paws-itively episode here. I'm Nicole, your host. This is Dean Piper, the Pipe Man, the co-host, and we're on the Women for Women Network. Thanks for tuning in and joining us today. And wow, today's going to be a great show. We have a special guest.
I know him well.
Yeah,
I know him well, and I'm very excited. And I see too, I can't resist, but I see too that you did your hair kind of like the older women in South Florida do to their dogs here.
Yeah, exactly. I did go with an extra hairdo today. I've got my extra, like bun ears and a little waggy tail.
Yeah, see, there you go.
I couldn't resist. Let's get really
Bill
nice.
is the pet health guru. I met him 2007, beginning of 2008, somewhere around there. And basically, I had him as a guest on my show when I had a show on another network before this network even existed. And so then when we started the network here 18 years ago, there were three shows on the network. One was mine. One was somebody else that was associated with me that was also at that other network that came over. And the other one was the Pet Health Café with the Pet Health Guru. And so for 18 years on this network, he has been helping people with their pets, not only in educating them, not only in solving their problems, but in creating much healthier pets, much healthier families that last longer, because a healthy pet is going to live longer, and a healthy family with a healthy pet is going to last longer. So with no further ado, I think we should bring on the Pet Health Guru.
Yeah, there's lots to talk about. Let's dig in. Hello, Bill.
Hello. Yes, thank you, Pipe Man, for a great intro as always.
Yeah, now I gotta fix my camera. I don't know
of course. And thank you for Nicole for having me on. I mean, hopefully I can, give a little bit of good wisdom out there, and we can help some people and some pets, and sharing the wealth of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because people love their pets, right? They are part of our family, and we love them and cherish them, and sometimes we treat them better than ourselves. So,
you should say that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I ever told you this story, Bill, but it does pertain to what you teach people. So, my best friend of life since 13, who passed away in September, me and him and his girlfriend all lived together when we were like 19 years old. And she had a Newfoundland, interestingly enough for our Canadian here.
Oh, yeah. I got a very topic. I got a very interesting conversation message from Newfoundland today. And that conversation is like unrecognizable. You can't understand them. So how do you understand a Newfoundland dog? Speaking whole other lingo.
You feed them. So what Tracy used to do is she would make a gourmet meal for this dog. Like when I say gourmet meal, Bill knows what I'm talking about because she literally cooked a meal like she would cook for Mark, her boyfriend, or me, who was there too. We didn't get the meal. The dog got the meal. And the dog was so healthy because it was eating real food. And that's what Bill is all about. Real food for pets. Am I right, Bill?
Absolutely. I mean, that was our first tagline, basically, was real food for real pets. And that's what brought the whole, the deli concept together. Is we had to introduce something that was totally foreign to most people 20 years ago. It wasn't so foreign 50 years ago because when our grandparents cooked a meal, we didn't feed them leftovers. There was actually a whole extra meal in that meal for the dog and the cat. They were a part of the family even back then. And with commercial pet foods, we've kind of gotten away from that. And of course, now we're relying on basically the fast food companies to give and feed our pets basically real leftovers. And when I say real leftovers, a lot of the things that go into commercial pet foods today are the leftovers out of the supermarkets and out of the slaughterhouses. A lot of garbage
of pet food.
Well, it's even worse than that. I mean, they actually pick up the dumpsters from behind Albertsons and Publix and Walmart and Target because there's basically multiple dumpsters now. One is just for food products, and those go to a rendering plant, and that's what they put into pet food. They cook that actually down with the styrofoam containers, the cardboard boxes, all the plastic. So we have all that nice, those plasticizers, the BPA, the phthalates, all of that cooked into the ingredients. So we have nothing more than sick animals that, unfortunately, the veterinarian, the drug companies make a lot of money on.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's a new awareness for me. So I was wondering what happened between like 20 years ago and 50 years ago. Just this introduction to these commercial products, or
kibble, the kibble type food wasn't invented till 1955. That's when it was basically co-invented by, at that point in time, Ralston Purina Company and Quaker Oats, two cereal companies, Wheat Chex, Rice Chex, and Corn Chex, and of course the whole Quaker Oats family of cereals, to come up with a product that we could use our waste product on, but also a convenience food of primarily grain-based foods for carnivores. Do you see anything wrong with that picture?
Yeah, a little. It's a little.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't feed them a species-appropriate diet, they're not going to be healthy.
Exactly. It seems like recycling gone wrong.
It really is. And according to the FDA, if it's food, it has to be fit for human consumption. Well, most pet foods are not made with those kind of ingredients, which means that they are supposed to be labeled as feed and not fed to any creature. However, the FDA looks the other way when it comes to the donations that, General Foods and Mars Candy and Nestle's make to their to their institutions. So it's like we just ignore it. We feel it's okay to feed our pets garbage, and we promote it on TV and the internet and through slick packaging as being complete and balanced, which it's not, and healthy, which it's not. And we have taken the longevity of our pets. Dogs should be living over 20 years, cats living over 30 years, and the medical community now says if your dog lives to be 8-10 years old, oh my God, you are so lucky. We have actually created that ill health.
It doesn't feel lucky to me when you own a pet and it's only 8 years. That doesn't feel lucky.
Well, it's not only the fact that they're only living to 8 or 10 years old, but they're living in misery. I mean, look at the types of problems that our poor pets have: the scratching and itching, the gastric problems. Things like diabetes, cancer. I see animals now, puppies at 10 months, 12 months of age with cancer already. We never had cancer 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Was it you that was telling me recently, I can't remember if it was you or somebody else, that they're giving dogs Prozac.
No, that was the story I relayed to you that somebody gave to me. One of my clients wanted to know, and it was funny because it was the owner of a health food store that wanted to know if I had anything special that I could give
Answer the phone.
I got two phones and I turned it off on one and not the other. But anyway, wanted to know, and this is a health food person and so-called healthy, but do we have any kind of herbs or botanicals that will get her 2-year-old kitten off Prozac for anxiety? I mean, it's insane what we're giving. I mean, all the drugs out there, they don't have enough. The drug companies aren't making enough money just selling it to people. They have to sell it to the animals as well.
Well, they know people are going to spend a lot more on their animals, so that drug bill is probably better than the human drug bill.
Exactly. And
somewhere it's kind of shifted to like, taking care of your pets is a big pharmaceutical, endeavor, roller coaster.
I can tell you right now that I followed what the Pet Health Guru teaches for many years with my pug, April. April never went to a vet ever and lived longer than they say pugs should live.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. Just on the from a puppy up till old age.
Yep.
So what are some of those tips? What are some of those health tips maybe for our listeners we can share?
Well, the first thing that we start with, and I actually I do a lot of writing, and I do, of course, my own show, and that's one of the things we're talking about, is that if you're going to get a pet, the first thing that you need to do is look at your budget. What can you afford? Obviously, if you're on a tight budget, you're not going to buy a Great Dane or, a Newfoundland, okay? That's going to eat you out of house and home. You need to budget that. But budget the food part in first for a good diet, a good species-appropriate diet, because if the animal's healthy, you don't have to go to a vet. You don't need all the procedures. You don't need all the vaccines. You don't need all the preventative drugs that are a part of what modern medicine is today. Used to be when I started in this business, if you saw a veterinarian, it was because either you had a brand new puppy or a kitten and you just wanted a general physical to find out that they were, in at least pretty good shape, and accidents and injuries, trauma care, basically emergency trauma. And then possibly at the end of life, although most animals just kind of passed away in their sleep at that point in time and got buried in the backyard, with a nice plaque and probably a tree on top of them, to memorialize it. But we didn't have this 24/7, for every little thing we have to call a white coat to tell us what's wrong. Every time they burp, every time they fart, every time they, don't eat. I mean, the number of clients I have that when the dog won't eat breakfast, for whatever reason, could be an upset stomach, could be just not hungry, could be that wolves in nature don't eat till the afternoon. They're sitting in the middle of the floor trying to spoon feed this animal, and the animal's eating, not because they're hungry, not because they need nutrition. They're picking up on that negative energy that the owner is passing along to them. And, it becomes an insane thing. Every session with your animal is a training session. Either they're training you or you're training them. It's usually the first one. They're training you.
I've noticed too, if you're around neurotic people, their dog is neurotic.
Yeah, because like dogs naturally pick up all the energy of their owners, and there's a very symbiotic relationship there. I'm sure naturally you have to work pet and owner. I'm sure you can see that there's some correlation, and pets can pick up their cancers or their illnesses or their anxieties. And that's also a really interesting part, because it's fascinating that we take such good care of our pets, but sometimes not so much care of ourselves. Like you can't see that reflection,
That's how we started working on a lot more people and a lot of pet owners, as everybody was coming in and it's like, my pet's doing fantastic. I'm doing like really, really terrible. Can you fix me too, Bill? And it's like, well, I'm not a doctor, so you don't have to listen to a word I say, but you know what? Because I'm not a doctor, I don't have those letters after my name. I can say whatever the hell I want. And
right. You can take it or leave it. I mean, Yeah, that's like, it's just word of mouth, what works, experience is empirical evidence, I think, too. Like over the years, something working and seeing it have the results and the benefits it speaks for itself. So, yeah, but so when we're talking about like, yeah, I think that's interesting, the healing properties of pets too. This is the language of healing, and I believe that pets are really part of that as well. And I know we're talking about whole natural foods. It's very hard to find that in human and pet form these days. So you kind of have to, it's smart and wise to educate yourself a little bit around that. So yes, what else can you share with us? Because I have some questions, but
Okay, no problem. But no, I mean, you brought the first part of that up, is that the whole foods part of it is an important part. Today, in any of the branches of the health industry, there's so much emphasis on supplements. Well, if you're eating good food, clean food that's raised the right way, there's no need for supplements. It's in the diet. I mean, I can't tell you the number of people that have switched over to a raw, species appropriate diet, and 6 months into it, it's like, Bill, I'm feeding him the raw meat. Where are the nutrients? It's like, how can you ask that question? It's in the food. Is your animal still alive? Then obviously they're getting nutrition.
Well, even with humans, like you take supplements, but listen, if you're eating properly, you don't need to supplement, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, most supplements for humans are way more than your body should even be consuming. So it's basically, a lot of times you're just wasting a lot of it, whereas eating food, real food, the real food knows how much of those nutrients you need, and your body knows how much it needs from the food.
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't digest either.
Yeah, well, as you said, it's not digestible. It's not bioavailable, which is the important part of it. But when you take a supplement too, you're throwing off, like let's say you're taking a mineral supplement, you're going to throw off the balance of all the other minerals in the body. Now you've got this cascading effect. But basically, the body is very, very precise in the way it handles these things. If it's a natural thing, a natural food, the body's like, use it or lose it, comes out. If it's a synthetic, man-made, the body says, I have no clue what this is. And then the body has a tendency to start storing that in fat cells. That's why we see so much obesity. We're storing toxins then in fat cells. I often use the analogy that our body is a lot like women with shoes. When the closet gets filled with the shoes, we don't throw any out. We make somebody build a new closet. Our body's the same way. We're not getting rid of those fat cells because we're storing those old shoes. Let's build some more fat cells for some more toxins.
Wait a minute. I take offense to that because I have to build a new closet. Okay. and that's just for the Vans.
There you go.
Just the Vans.
We're not counting the other brands of sneakers. Okay.
Exactly.
There's so many colors and styles, and oh my goodness.
Are you trying to offend me, Bill?
Hey, if I haven't done it in the 18 years, I guess I never will.
I know, right?
But you said you had some questions. Let's get to some of them.
Sure. But just on the topic, I think around like the whole foods and the supplements, because, I think, food is medicine, even from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective. You'll say your body's out of balance or you have something going on, you'll eat the right foods, getting the right nutrients for that condition, through herbs or food, more specific. But then you stop. Once your body has reached a level, that's it, But when we add all the extra supplements, and maybe because of our diet and not eating whole foods, that, there's a lot of processed stuff, or, the hot dogs and the cutting room scraps that we're eating isn't really providing us with things. So we have to add, and it just creates the extra toxicity. Our body's never really clear. It doesn't really even know how to recognize to produce the right hormones or minerals or functionality. So it gets, defunct over time, and then we have to rely on this stuff. So I think trusting in our body is really important, because it's like, how could it be so simple that I just eat like, this meat? And I think that it's really important to eat per your environment. That's a huge basic principle of Chinese medicine. And so like maybe the Newfoundland dog doesn't need the same as the Chihuahua. I don't know. It's
well, in Chinese medicine, of course, too, you're treating like with like. So if you've got a heart condition, basically you should be eating heart muscle, so you build that muscle and regenerate the right cells. Liver and kidney, the same thing. I mean, I know it's things that people don't think about eating so much today, but our great grandparents did all the time. They knew. Yeah.
I know, it's amazing. In that short time, we've just lost so much of that knowledge. It's like.
Well,
it's not that far, but it's so far away.
Yeah, well, I joke around that our great grandmothers had one remedy for every disease known to mankind, and that was chicken soup. It was made with local ingredients, fresh ingredients, and it varied every single time and it cured everything. They knew what spices, what herbs to put into it for whatever was going on in the area, at that particular time. And the interesting thing about it is when I talk to people about that, of course, bone broth is now
it's a fashion
fad. Yeah, the fashion fad.
Yeah.
But when it came
essential.
When it came to eating the soup, it was always better on the third day, and of course we would always be getting better at that point in time. And I said, well, there was a reason for that, because even if it was refrigerated, that was still fermenting. So it was actually breaking down and being used much more readily by the body, and the body just bounced right back. And
because the body doesn't have to use energy to break it down. If it's fermented, it's already easy digestible, right?
That's right.
It's key to health.
I have a trivia question for you both. Okay. What is the secret ingredient to Jewish penicillin?
Whiskey.
No. Okay. So since you don't even know what Jewish penicillin is, that's what Bill was referring to.
That's a chicken soup. Yeah.
Chicken soup is Jewish penicillin. Okay.
Yep. Not a hot toddy.
There is a secret ingredient to the great Jewish chicken soup, and I used to make my matzo ball soup with this secret ingredient that most people don't know about.
Well, the secret ingredients varied a lot too, depending on what part of the world you came from too. But a lot had to do with the different herbs and botanicals that were put into it. The fresh garlic, the fresh onions, and of course a good fresh chicken.
Okay, so
and actually, you were looking
now
for.
You're getting close. Now you're getting close. What part of the chicken?
Chicken feet, definitely.
That's it.
Oh yeah, nice.
That's all the collagen. That's where all the collagen is, and of course we need the collagen.
And that's where all the flavor is too.
Yeah.
And to your point, you basically are simmering the chicken feet in the water for like 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And when we used to pick one out, when I would go with my father, we'd pick out the oldest, biggest Rhode Island red rooster that we could find. And that always made the best soup. As far as a cooking chicken, it would be, it wouldn't be something you went as a roaster because it'd be tough as could be. But in the soup, it's all cooked down. So
I'm curious what they do in Louisiana. What do you think, Rebel?
Yeah, what are some of those remedies? I'm sure there's a lot of home brews.
I'm sure it has to do with putting alcohol in the chicken soup.
It does not have to do with putting alcohol in the chicken soup, but depending on what region of Louisiana you are asking, you might get some voodoo stuff that, involves something about chickens.
Yeah, see that? And then you end up you get better, but then you grow these claws and feathers.
Is that what gives you hair on your chest?
She has that evil laugh like she's done that to a few guys.
Who, me? Never. I don't play with the voodoo, only the hoodoo.
What stories do you have to share, Rebel, about your experiences with the pet health guru over all these years?
Oh, wow. Let's see. I know that people really ought to hear and listen to what he's telling you. It took me a while. I ain't going to lie. It took me a hot minute to actually hear what he was telling me. And I finally got some products. And it makes such a difference. It really and truly does make a difference in what you do.
What kind of differences have you seen since using Bill's products?
I have seen a thinner, happier puppy. And my puppy's not, first of all, he's not a puppy. He's a dog, but he acts like a puppy.
Forever a puppy. Forever a pupper.
I'm his emotional support human, okay?
So, yeah. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. You know how people have emotional support dogs?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I'm my dog's emotional support human.
I wonder if you would be allowed in Florida now, because they don't really allow emotional support dogs in Florida anymore.
Really?
Well, no. Again, I'm his emotional support human. So he needs me to be there.
Somehow you might get outlawed in Florida. I think you probably should be. If you're not outlawed already, I'm bringing it up.
Well, you know, when Pipe Man runs for president, you know, you guys think about that. That's one of his platforms, to outlaw me from Florida.
Yeah. So, if elected, I will and I will send Mike Tyson after you. That's what I'll do.
He might like that. But anyway, so my dog is in his 12th year, I think. And since I've had him on the products, he actually looks for me to put it in his food. You know, when he don't have it, he's like, "Wait, what is this? You're a little bit stingy in here. What are you doing?" You know. But he looks for it in his product. He's peppy. He's always been what I call the baby, but he's more. He's trying to play fetch with the cat now. So, and he's slimmed down in weight. So it's been a wonderful experience, and I'm hoping to have my puppy forever.
Many long years.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
speaking of listening to you, though, Bill, before you go on, why don't you tell everybody how they can listen or watch or both your live show and your podcast?
Well, the Pet Health Cafe, of course, is on one of our other channels here. They can go to W4HC. They can go to PetHealthCafe.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, a whole bunch of other platforms. Live shows on Thursday night at 8:00. And of course, the replays, around the clock. So when you, which is good because of the amount of content sometimes I throw into these things, because it's so much contrary to what we hear from the veterinarians and the normal pet food people and that sort of thing, that you kind of have to wrap your head around it. I try to get into the physiology part of it, why things are happening, why you need to do it, why just dumping that pet food out of the bag is not even close to nutritional. And if you've got a good, healthy animal, you don't need to buy all these things. I mean, I just did an article on seizures, and actually I did a show on seizures as well, that all the pet owners that have animals with seizures are looking and asking, what neurotoxic flea product can I use on my dog to prevent fleas? Well, the only thing that prevents fleas is eliminate the fleas. I mean, or build a good, healthy immune system so you don't have that problem. But these are not preventative medicines. These are basically treating for things your animal doesn't have with a neurotoxin. We're killing the brain cells. Which makes dogs harder to train. We're killing the gut bacteria on top of it. And so you can't digest the food. And then we feed them a bad diet on top of it. The products that Rebel is referring to are some of my herbal blends. I don't even consider them supplements because they're not. They're Whole Foods. But when I formulated things that are going to detox on a daily basis. The milk thistle, the dandelion root, the echinacea, astragalus, clean out the liver, the kidney, the lymphatic system. If I clean those out every day, now I can get rid of those toxins. If I don't open up those pathways, I'm just recirculating them, and I just keep getting sicker. My dog keeps getting sicker and going downhill and more problems. And the goal is to have a happy animal, a healthy animal, because they are healthy, and us not worrying about it every little time something acts up. It's like, okay, you're just having an off day, or I'm having an off day, whatever, and you just keep moving on. We don't have to worry about medications and giving insulin 3 times a day and stuff like that we never had before when we fed real food. And like I said, back 50 years ago, that's all they were getting.
Even that Prozac thing blows my mind, because now you said about the story on here, that means I've heard it a couple times, and it's like, really? Why are we giving animals Prozac? I don't get it.
Well, because sometimes, I don't know if it's a training thing or, maybe lately in more recent years with the pandemic, and the animals were so used to having their owners around all the time. And then suddenly they go out the house and they're barking. And, I know some owners, they can't really leave their pets alone without them having huge anxiety, separation anxiety.
But why not get them something that can run around the house with them, or put on a TV channel that they can listen to?
Yeah.
Why go to poison the things?
I know,
Somebody read the box.
I don't know, but some dogs are really struggling, it seems like.
Well, the big problem, all these mental things are all caused by mineral deficiencies and hormonal imbalances anyway. And that, of course, is caused by a lot of these drugs that they're being fed, all the bad food. I mean, when you're thinking about, even if you're, even with us, if you're buying supermarket grade meats, for instance, okay, that was probably raised on GMO corn and soy. So you got phytoestrogen, you've got the GMOs, the insecticidal products on the BT corn, because it actually makes its own insecticide, the synthetic fertilizers that went into it. Then we sprayed it all with Roundup when we harvested it, and then we feed it to the cattle and the chickens and everything else. So that's already in the meat. And feeding grain to ruminants, which are your beef cattle and your dairy cows, your sheep, that when they eat grass, it converts into omega-3s and 9s. That's why our grandparents could eat beef and be healthy. Today, with the grain feeding, it turns into omega-6. That causes inflammation. And, I know when that whole thing came through with the grain-fed Angus beef, the hottest thing in the world now, because the marbling's all the same. There's no flavor. You have to add a lot of flavors to it in order to make it taste like anything. And the older people were like, I can't eat beef anymore. I can't digest it properly. Well, it's because it's not the same beef. It's totally different product because the fat is different. It's not a usable fat.
Everything is different from a butcher's meat to the store products. It's like the taste, the color, the patterns, it's amazing.
And of course, you look at the difference between, to get a steak at a good butcher shop or, from the ranch, and then you look at what's in the supermarket. The one at the ranch, it's got that kind of a brownish look to it and that sort of thing. It's not that bright red because it's not sprayed with that red food dye. People don't realize that, all this stuff has got additives to it.
Yeah, it's all marketing. It's all a marketing money-making machine.
That's right.
Based on your health. So that's why you need to be educated and take, a proactive approach to your body and, know what you're putting in there. So what should we be feeding our pets? Well, and then I'll ask you the question. Well, my question is kind of about feeding pets at the table, because I was always like, no, I'm not going to feed this little begging animal at the table. But then some animals are bred to be pack dogs, and feeding them a little nibble of what you're eating is a sign of them being part of the community. And so I don't know if that's by bread or by.
Well, the problem
what are your thoughts on that, and what should we be eating or feeding?
Here's a good example that I've often used over the years is that we're feeding, our pets this commercial food. And, in the kitchen, there's a bowl of dog food that sits there all day long. The dog barely ignores it as much as possible. And you walk out to the kitchen and you open up the refrigerator door and you grab a bottle of water or a glass of wine. The dog ignores you. Just touch the package of ground beef, touch the package of chicken, and they're Velcro to your or cheese, and they're Velcro to your leg.
Yeah.
You're fixing dinner. Okay, they're back and forth with you. It's like they're just praying for something to hit the floor, and you're yelling at them. You got your food. You got your food. You got your food. Go lay down. You finish cooking. You go into the dining room. You sit down at the table and bring up your stuff. Okay, there's the dog at the table begging. Okay, and you're yelling at him. Go lay down. You got your own food. Everything else. You clean up. The dog's back and forth to the kitchen with you. Everything's cleaned up. Nothing hit the floor. The dog is really, really upset. You go in the family room. You turn on the TV. You sit down on the couch. The dog looks at you, looks at the kitchen, looks back at you, wanders out to the kitchen, grabs a mouthful of dry food, brings it in and drops it at your feet, and then eats one piece at a time. Like, you're making me eat this garbage when you had what I really need. That's where the begging at the table comes from. They're not getting the nutrition that they need. They're only eating enough to stay alive. And, obviously, as that goes on in time, the immune system is going to start to diminish. And now you've got, oh, my dog, he's throwing up. He's got diarrhea, whatever. We're running off to the vet's office. $5,000 later, all the tests came back that, he's perfectly normal. No, he's not. He's literally starving to death is what it really boils down to. And, because nutrition is in the wrong place. It's in the, in the carbs, which they can't digest. The pancreas is working overtime, making insulin, which it's not supposed to. So now we got diabetic dogs and cats. It's species appropriate, species specific. Certain animals eat certain things.
Yeah, so it's like, for example, cats are carnivores more.
Yeah. And so are dogs.
So
the only difference, dogs, the only difference, a cat is what we consider an obligate carnivore. That's all they can really digest. But dogs are opportunistic carnivores, which means they're a scavenger. They'll eat drywall, they'll eat panties, they'll eat shoes, they'll eat socks.
Totally.
Anything to balance themselves out.
Eat their dry dog food. That's the only thing they won't eat.
Yeah.
That's so
and by the way, the bugs won't eat the dry food either. That stays there forever.
What does that tell you? I have a good story for this too.
True.
Okay, so if you compare the humans, my grandchildren are here right now. Not right this second, but that would be like me sitting them down and giving them maybe like broccoli, let's say, and I sit down and I eat a chocolate ice cream. They're gonna come over and beg. They're gonna come over and beg. Okay.
Yeah.
And I can say, go eat your broccoli.
Do as I say, not what I do.
And then what do? What do the grandchildren do? They throw the broccoli on the floor, the same as the dogs.
Yep.
And what they're telling you is, you eat that crap.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You sprinkle it, once you start feeding real foods, and, a lot of people, well, do I need to transition them? And it's like, no, just go cold turkey. They'll just eat. And if they have to do some cleansing, if they have to do some detox, that's just natural process. But, they try to mix it in with their old kibble, and they're eating around it. All the kibble. I literally, too, and like we said, that dogs are carnivores. In some of our recipes that we started out with in the very beginning, everybody was adding vegetables to the raw meat diets and thought that it was the way to go. Even though the scientific research didn't show it. And we used to put a pea and carrot mix in with the raw meat. And I had a client come to me one day and said, Bill, can you do my recipe without that? And I said, why? He says, because my dog will pick out every pea and set it next to the dish, would not eat it.
I hate peas.
And it was funny. And I said, I want to try an experiment though. I said, next time he does that, leave it and check it in an hour, 2 hours, whatever. He comes in the next day. He says that those peas sat there for 2 hours, and then I went out and they were gone. He says, "What's that?" I said, "It's a carbohydrate." That was dessert. It was like he didn't want the dessert right away. His body knew that he had to digest the proteins and the fats first, which is what we're supposed to be doing too.
Yeah, that's so smart. I know. How come we don't I mean, maybe in some level we do have this inherent knowledge of how to eat best for us, but I mean, that's what I love about Eastern medicine is that it has carried that knowledge down. Like, you
Yeah,
eat this, this is the steps and why, and you eat these foods during this time and avoid
yeah.
those. Yeah,
Well, you know, I
but
mean, when you look at
maybe our
eating
like
locally, you only got certain
yeah.
foods available at certain times of the year, and
Yeah.
that's when you're going to get the most nutritional benefit out of it.
Right, like
Blueberries,
honey, honey is like should be eaten locally, like from
yes.
your local honeybees
They
because
haven't
Yeah.
they're
taught
going
them
and
how to
getting all the
conjugate verbs up in Canada yet.
yeah,
Yep.
I know. Sorry, I know that was a bad. We're live. That's great. That's fine.
Yep. Yeah. No, I mean, we use a lot of
Edit,
honey.
edit, edit.
You know, honey is one of the best natural antibiotics, you know, on the face of the earth. In fact, if you get a cut or a bad scrape, uh, don't use peroxide because that actually kills off the living cells that are trying to replace the dead ones or damaged ones. Put raw honey on it, you actually cure in 50% less time because you're feeding it
Wow.
and you've got a natural antibiotic. Manuka
So,
honey has been used in burn centers for like 20 years
Mhm.
because of its healing power. Of course, they don't call it Manuka honey; they give it a scientific drug name. And you know, $100 jar of honey, then the hospital charge you like $10,000 for in treatments. You know,
so I
Yeah,
have
that
another
comes.
question that's
Uh,
really important. Okay,
uh-oh.
because I've heard conflicting parts of this. So we're on this craze in this country with CBD and cannabinoids and all that stuff. And okay, so now like they give all this CBD or even THC and stuff like that to animals. Yet, from what I understand, that stuff can kill a dog or cat. You know, like the kids that are getting high and thinking it's funny to get the family pet high, you know, from what I understand, they can kill the pet. So, what's your feelings, Pet Health Guru, about CBD products, THC products, any kind of cannabinoid
well,
product for pets?
well, first off, most of the natural cannabis plants do not contain high amounts of THC. It's basically just a trace amount. Every living warm animal creature literally makes CBD within their own body. So it is safe, but the THC, because we have manipulated, just like we've manipulated the corn plant and the
Mhm.
soybeans and everything else, that's not what the original product is. The
Yeah.
way CBD works, basically, it doesn't cure anything by itself. It doesn't change anything by itself, but rather sets off, it works in conjunction with the adrenal gland, and it targets where the adrenal gland targets trauma by flooding that area with, you know, stem cells and blood cells, and nutrition and hormones and enzymes and all of that to heal. The endocannabinoid system in a warm-blooded animal targets the inflammation, which is tied to obviously the trauma, but also we have inflammation in areas where there not necessarily is a trauma. So when you're taking it, you know, a lot of people might take it for pain. You know, I got shoulder pain, and it works and it gets rid of maybe 50, 60% of the pain. And they take it again and it's like, oh, it's not working anymore. Well, the problem is we don't know where that inflammation is. So if it worked on the shoulder and okay, we've got relief going on there, the next dose is not going to go back to the shoulder. It's going to say, hey, you know what? You got a liver problem going on. You got a kidney problem going on. Your adrenal gland is fatigued. I need to help that out. And those are things we don't even think about because we don't know when they're damaged or that they're stressed out or, you know, that they're a problem until it gets to a point where, you know, you really have bad, serious, visible symptoms. So, you know, our body is producing it naturally. When we supplement it, of course, you know, and we also know that supposedly we don't make as much of this when we get older. It has nothing to do with age. It has to do with the number of issues because of the number of toxins that we're exposed to that keep wearing down these body systems. And the body is designed to regenerate, and it regenerates on a regular basis. And all we can do to heal anything is give it the tools it needs to do its own work. And when we do that, health comes back.
Yeah,
and
we do
and of
know
course
what to do.
Yeah, and of course it
Yeah.
starts with food. That's got to start with food. That's the only thing that's our energy source.
Yeah, it's true. We have our primary energy source, which comes from our constitution, our parents, when we're born and we're conceived, and we come into this world with that initial source of energy, and then everything after that is from our
Thank God
food,
I got rid
the
of
air.
that energy.
No. Well, I mean, it's what makes you. You can supplement it. Luckily, right? You can supplement that.
Yes, I supplemented that energy with Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and
Yep.
Oh, so speaking of trauma, then, because I assume that it comes with a heavy punch. But so the cannabis bill. You were saying that does that contribute or help the body function with the liver and the kidneys?
Yeah,
the adrenals?
it's
can clog
going to
it up?
help. Yeah, it's going to help because what it's going to do is it's going to turn on those switches on those areas where that inflammation is, where that damage is. So again, then that's being flooded with the nutrients, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, the stem cells, the enzymes and hormones to be able to create that regeneration. Not every organ regenerates at the same rate. I mean, our skin,
Right.
we know that we replace our skin about every 4 to 6 weeks. Our liver and kidney, I mean, I heard that one of the top transplant surgeons basically said we don't have to have transplant surgery anymore for kidney or liver, because if we just clean the old one out and don't put more stuff in, it will regenerate. Brain cells take 3 to 4 years. The most fascinating one is the taste buds. We replace those, believe it or not, every 3 days. That's why what you cooked yesterday that was so delicious 2 weeks from now is going to taste like garbage. And it's because that's tied into our natural being of what we need. It's a natural craving, it's telling. And of course, that's tied in with...
It's alive. It's a mucous membrane. It's like gauging our body constantly. With Chinese medicine, we're always checking the pulse and the tongue. And it's like, it's like the daily photograph.
And that turns on the nose, it turns on the eyes, and turns on the brain.
And our digestive system, because from the the nose out or from the mouth out, it's all one tube. So same with our pets. I know we're coming close to the end of the show.
I know.
Why does it always go so fast? But 2 minutes. 2 minutes to midnight.
Yes.
We've got so we can find you on the Pet Health Cafe or at the pethealthcafe.com.
Right. Yep.
Also on W4HC. Is that right?
Yep.
That's the channel. Also part of the Talk 4 Media and Talk 4 TV.
Yes, all of the above.
Paleo Pet.
Yes, My Paleo Pet is our retail store.
Yes.
I work out of there quite a bit. I do nutritional counseling. I do, and when I do that, I'm not just telling you I'm not putting together a diet plan for you. I'm basically going to tell you how the body works and how it needs to be fed. And then it's up to you. You're the one that gives it the tools that it needs to heal. And the same applies to our pets as it does to ourselves. And if we take care of both, we're all going to be happy.
That's good life living right there. Yes. Enjoy all those snuggles and cuddles with your furry friends and human friends alike.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Unless it's a hairless cat, then it's not a furry friend. It has no fur.
There you go.
Oh, I've never touched one of those. That would be like still part of that. It's a little creepy to me.
Yeah.
Would it be like, would you be able to pet it, or would it stop? Like, would you mid stroke?
No, it really doesn't. It's not that big a difference. I mean, think of the people that have lizards and snakes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, my sister has a bearded dragon, and it eats live worms, and the occasional kale. Sometimes he doesn't like his leafy greens.
Yep.
But he does love the worms.
Oh yes.
I want a pet platypus. And on that note, we have to end the show.
There you go.
Thank
you for having me.
Bill. Yeah, thanks, Dean. Pipe Man, thanks for joining us again. Our listeners, we'll see you next week, Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on W4WN. Sayonara. See you next
Good night.
week.
Wow, what a show today. And the journey does not stop here. Come travel the world with Nicole every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time as together we become more fluent in the language of healing on W4WN Radio and Talk4 TV. See you next week.